Dr. Andy Galpin opens the conversation by challenging the conventional, narrow definition of fitness, often equated solely with VO2 max, a physiological measure of cardiorespiratory capacity. While VO2 max is commonly used in research as a proxy for fitness, particularly cardiovascular fitness, Andy stresses this is only one facet and not how he approaches fitness in coaching or general understanding. Instead, he urges us to return to the original biological context. Fitness is about being fit for the environment, which extends beyond aerobic capacity to a comprehensive sense of resilience and adaptability across physical, mental, and cellular domains. This broader perspective takes into account survival, health, bone density, mental well-being, and the body's ability to respond to stress and change. Rather than being a single measurable metric, fitness is best understood as an expression of one's capacity to meet the demands placed upon them, driven by both genetics and lifestyle. Andy emphasizes that this holistic view prevents us from obsessing over single data points and allows coaching and training to be better tailored to individual needs. One of the podcast's major takeaways revolves around the necessity of having a structured, intelligently designed program rather than piecing together random workouts or chasing trends on social media. Andy and the host highlight that many people chase the perfect program or obsess over tiny details, but none of that matters if there's no consistency or a coherent approach connecting the dots. They advocate strongly for hiring a competent coach to develop a tailored plan and to commit to following it for a sustained period, say 8 to 12 weeks, without deviation. This approach stands in contrast to the common habit of bouncing between programs or prematurely adding extras that undermine progress. The coach acts as a guide, creating a plan based on one's goals, capabilities, and recovery, ensuring progression is monitored and adjusted intelligently instead of guessing. The dialogue moves to the topic of goals, addressing a frequent misconception. Many people believe they don't need explicit goals or write them down, preferring loose ambitions like "I want to get fit" or "lose weight." Andy clarifies that goal setting in fitness isn't necessarily about obsessively writing down times or weights. Instead, it's about defining a clear intention that guides training and promotes accountability. By distinguishing between a goal itself and the defenders of the goal, the reasons why one isn't currently achieving it, Andy points out the importance of addressing limiting factors, injuries, technique, volume tolerance, rather than merely chasing the endpoint. For example, someone wanting to improve their 5K time but frequently injured when increasing mileage requires a different approach than someone whose limitation is speed. This critical insight reframes progress as solving problems and removing barriers, tailored specifically to the individual. Andy outlines that fitness is multifaceted, composed of 9 distinct adaptations, with skill, referring to how efficiently one moves, being foundational. Before one can meaningfully improve strength, endurance, speed, or any other physical attribute, technique and movement quality must be addressed to prevent injury and maximize efficiency. This is particularly true in endurance sports, where maintaining good form delays fatigue and reduces breakdown. He stresses that many injuries and stagnation stem from poor biomechanical patterns, which, if uncorrected, undermine all other aspects of performance. Improving movement skills enhances energy efficiency, reduces wear and tear, and elevates overall capacity. For most average individuals, reaching a baseline competency in movement is sufficient, but athletes aiming for high-level performance must hone mechanical efficiency rigorously. The conversation delves deeply into the nature of stress and recovery, describing human physiology's response to cumulative stressors. Andy explains the stress bucket analogy, where the total capacity to handle stress has a limit. Once full, additional load produces diminishing returns and risk of breakdown. Non-specific stressors, things unrelated directly to training, like poor diet, sleep deprivation, life stress, and micronutrient deficiencies, fill the bucket, reducing capacity for training adaptation. By identifying and managing these performance anchors, an individual can clear space in their stress bucket to better absorb training stress and recover effectively. The goal is to minimize these anchors before trying to amplify workouts. This underscores the importance of holistic health management, nutrition, sleep, stress reduction, alongside training and explains why some plateau despite maintaining workout volume. Andy brings a nuanced view to the popular trend of wearable fitness trackers and health monitors. While these devices can provide meaningful baseline awareness and accountability, their limitations are significant, particularly regarding sleep staging accuracy or interpreting HRV and heart rate data day to day. He warns against overreacting to daily fluctuations or placing too much trust in absolute numbers from consumer technology, which often suffer from accuracy issues or algorithm changes. He advocates employing these tools primarily for trend analysis over extended periods, rather than making instant decisions based on individual data points. The takeaway is that trackers serve best as support tools that encourage better behavior, but can be counterproductive if they induce anxiety or obsession over minor deviations. Understanding the reliability, variability, and appropriate use of these data streams is critical for effective recovery and training adjustments. Another prominent theme is the deliberate use of functional overload in training, intentionally pushing the body beyond its usual limits to stimulate adaptation, followed by planned recovery to elicit supercompensation and performance gains. Andy draws distinctions between functional overreaching, temporary dips in performance followed by gains, non-functional overreaching, where gains do not occur despite fatigue, and true overtraining syndrome, which is rare and involves physiological damage requiring months of recovery. He advises monitoring for signs of overreach and balancing push with recovery in a way that fits the athlete's calendar, lifestyle, and goals. A coach's role often includes programming hard phases timed to peak for competition while arranging deload and taper phases thoughtfully. This cyclical approach to stress and adaptation is fundamental to sustainable progress. Andy addresses popular myths around fat adaptation, especially in endurance contexts. While traditional thinking advocates burning more fat for ultra-long events, he reminds listeners that metabolic flexibility, fluidly switching between carbohydrates and fats, is the key rather than maximizing fat burning alone. He points out that elite marathoners derive over 70% of their energy from carbohydrates, whereas ultra-endurance events differ substantially in pace and fuel needs. This complexity means there is no one-size-fits-all nutrition or training strategy, and experimentation is essential to find individual approaches. The challenges around gastrointestinal tolerance, caloric intake, and balancing fat versus carbohydrate consumption further complicate this field. Ultimately, the science of endurance fueling is advancing, but many questions remain, particularly over multi-day and ultra-long events. The podcast explores the growing interest in the hybrid athlete who wants to simultaneously develop strength and endurance, often with competing training priorities. Andy confirms it is possible to improve both within the same cycle, but the proportion of focus depends heavily on the individual's background and current limiting factors. Someone with a strength deficit will benefit from more resistance training early on, while others might prioritize endurance. However, he cautions that at elite levels, chasing extremes in both directions commonly results in sacrificing maximal potential in one or the other. Programming must consider nervous system fatigue, recovery capacity, and lifestyle constraints. Novelty can create temporary gains, but long-term success requires strategic prioritization and potentially phased emphasis. Andy tackles the prevalent misconception that exercise alone is an effective weight loss tool. He acknowledges exercise burns calories, but stresses that nutrition overwhelmingly dominates the regulation of body composition. Adaptive thermogenesis, the body's instinctive reduction of spontaneous activity and eat, and other mechanisms, can offset calories expended during workouts, often frustrating those who rely solely on exercise for fat loss. Despite this, maintaining physical activity is highly correlated with long-term weight maintenance and overall health. Exercise improves lean muscle mass, metabolic health, bone density, and cognitive function, supporting quality of life and longevity. Hence, weight management should be viewed as a byproduct of fitness rather than the sole purpose. In closing, Andy reflects on the fundamental why behind fitness. Beyond longevity statistics and health metrics, he reframes fitness as a unique opportunity and responsibility, We have one body and a finite window to realize its capacities. Our physical fitness shapes not only how we feel and function, but also the legacy we leave as role models for others. He encourages embracing fitness as a form of gratitude for this vessel that enables us to explore, connect, and contribute. Whether running hundreds of miles or simply reclaiming quality movement, prioritizing fitness is an affirmation of life, honoring our biology, maximizing potential, and living with intention.